些资讯。那我相信这些也是大家各位非常希望得到的这些资讯。很感谢大家的支持。这边我们就到此，谢谢。
Bienvenidos a First Realty School. Me llamo Gary Zhao y soy su instructor para el examen de bienes y raíces del estado de California. En nuestro programa se les preparará para el examen. Se les darán situaciones reales y tendrán acceso a diferentes ejercicios por medio de simulación en línea. No solamente será preparación para el examen de entrada, nuestros estudiantes también recibirán entrenamiento por parte de corredores de bienes y raíces líderes en la industria. Una vez culminado el curso, usted estará más que preparado para pasar el examen en el primer intento. También estará capacitado en buscar y encontrar clientes, cerrar transacciones y desarrollar una carrera en el mundo lucrativo de bienes y raíces. ¿Y tú? ¿Qué esperas? Llámenos para más información.
Hi everybody, welcome to First Realty School, a niche education system. We are not only offer state license exam, but also for top sales training program. Now, let's start today's class. In Chapter 1, the top sales training. I would like to start with overbank first. Top sales agents video. Just give us a general idea of what is the real estate salesperson.
Hi, I'm Christoph Chu, and I've been selling real estate now for 22 years here at Coldwell Banker in Beverly Hills. Growing my business has been a process, and I learned early on it takes making contacts each and every day, being part of the social world, in today's world also being part of social media. And for me, business is about learning. My coach taught me early on in real estate, you're paid in direct relation to your skills and your abilities. So that's why when I first heard about social media, I learned these skills up front way back in the beginning. And today, I'm helping new agents in my office and my company in learning how to use social media. We launched our new internet site a year ago. We literally were getting about 500 hits a month. Now with the use of social media and all the different platforms, we're getting about 26,000 unique visitors each and every month searching my ChristopchChu.com website and looking for properties here in Beverly Hills. Basically, everything we're doing now is all about video, because that's how people are finding things. You go to Google, you find my videos about our local communities, events, activities, homes, so why not use the main sources for social media and the internet and be on a platform where people can find you and see what you've got to sell. I love being in real estate here in Beverly Hills, being part of the Coldwell Banker brand, and being Generation Blue. And if I haven't met you before, come introduce yourself, and I have met you, I look forward to seeing you again.
Pretty cool. First, we would like to let you guys know what we provide. First, of course, we offer live classroom and in-classroom. We also offer online video. And we also offer online exam simulator. Before you take the state exam, I always ask my student to practice on exam simulator until you hit at least 80%. Then you should pass the first trial. Okay, that's exam simulator and the crash course. Once in a while, we will offer the crash course. That's the one in the San Jose last year. And we have all kind of study material, exam books. And of course, we also offer broker training from all the famous broker, title company.
大家好，我是王老师，欢迎来到第一地产学校。第一地产学校提供全美各州房地产贷款及保险的考证课程。我们的官网上有提供在线视频及现场直播，免费的试用。同时，我们还邀请各大公司的 broker 及专家为大家做实务的培训。你们的目标就是我们的目标，我们期待您的到临。
第一地产学校提供全方位经纪人考照课程，首创 Live 全球远程现场教学。
酷，王老师讲的简单易懂，千万经济不是梦。Online 模考加保证退费。
Yes， 我也是考过了。
速电第一地产学校626-636-6525。
各位海内外的同学房地产界的朋友，大家好。第一地产学校专门针对要从事房地产产业的朋友提供的一系列非常完整的服务。我们的目标不是只考试，我们的目标是培训成为一个1000万经纪人。因为根据政府的公布的数据，90%以上的考上执照的人，大部分最后都不了了之。那原因当然很多，所以王老师针对这个我们制定了6大项的服务。第一个，我们提供1年以上的上课方式。上课方式有3种，你可以来教室现场，你也可以在家里或任何地方，手机、电脑都可以参加现场的上课。然后最后一项，我们还有很完整的 online video 的培训的课程，除了上课。 Okay. Good morning. Today we're gonna continue on chapter 6.
which is on the page 36. We just give you a quick review about the most important about the variable rate. The first one, the fully amortization. The second one, balloon payment, and the interest only. Okay, let's put in the graphics so it can easier to demonstrate what's the difference in terms of your payment of principal and the interest. Okay, for example, if you have let's say like a $1 million loan. Okay, so if this is a fully amortization, then the graphic will look like for 60 months, your monthly payment is $6,000 for each month. It's all the same until the last 60 months payment. And in terms of the interest and the principal, it will look something like this. At the beginning, you pay most of them was interest, which demonstrated by this part. And at the beginning, you pay only a little bit to your principal. So, however, your principal payment was increased, and your interests were reduced after a certain, most likely after half of your payments. Okay, that's called fully amortization. And the second one we demonstrate by the green, we call balloon payment. Okay, balloon payment is another word for like it's not fully amortization, so it's partial. With a partially amortization, there's a 2 million. For example, you have a $1 million loan, you amortize probably like half of them. So $500,000 you amortize. So you will pay less than the fully amortization. And then on your final payment, of course, you still owe a big $500,000. So it's like a blowing a big balloon, so they call balloon payment. And the other million, real life, it can be something like for the 5 years, 60 months, instead of 60 months, your partial amortization for the first year or 2 years, so like a 12 payment or 24 payment. Then after 2 years, then you gonna pay the big balloon, pay them all. So that's why it called partial amortization. Okay, the third one we call interest only. It also called like a straight loan or term loan. It's interest only. Okay, however, you have to remember in order to pass the exam, you have to remember they call term or straight loan. Okay, interest only by itself, you only pay interest. Okay, so something like you pay much less than $6,000, you only pay $2,000 or $3,000 for the interest each month. However, until the last 60 months, you have to pay the $1 million, all the principal back at one time. Okay, so this graphics give you an idea. So if
most likely it can help you get a clear picture what is fully amortization in terms of payment, in terms of how long and how much you pay, in terms of each payment, the interest and versus the principal. Okay, so then we're going to continue on last week. I believe we finished the variable rate. So, and we also talk about on page 34 the type of loan. In general, the first category we call conventional loan. The second one, FHA and VA. And today, we will continue on we call the package. Yes, page 34. We continue on package loan. A package, like you purchase a software. They call package software, which means they combine a couple of components together. The same thing for our loan. In particular, for like a condominium. In general, the loan, the mortgage, only for your the real property, not for the furniture, not for the appliances. Okay. However, some particular like a condominium, the builder, they will ask for like a package loan. So which will include in some of the personal property like furniture and the appliances. And next, the blanket loan. Blanket, normally it implies a huge number, a large number of the property or the loan. So it's a borrower put up several parcels of the real estate to be used as security for the debt. That's called a blanket. And most likely it happened on the subdivision development. So a divider, a subdivider, they would like to get a large amount of the loan for their larger number of the properties. Okay, third, open-end. Open-end loan, it most likely is like an equity. So, equity is alternative for the home improvement loan. Equity is equal to your property value minus your debt. So let's say you have 400,000 loan. So that's your debt. However, your property worth $1 million. So that means your equity is 600. 600,000. So that's your equity. For our state exam, the equity is simple. Okay. Your total value minus the existing debt. In general, it's mortgage, your mortgage. Okay. However, in the real life, the bank, the lender or the bank, they have a little bit difference in calculation. Yeah. However, but for our state exam, that's pretty straightforward. That's all. That's all you need to know. Okay, last, construction loan. Construction in general is a short term, so interim. The finance. In California, a new construction most likely takes roughly up to 18 months. So the construction loan, in general, the bank will give you like a 3-year maturity to pay off. So construction loan we call interim. It's kind of like a bridge from before you sold your property. In the last year, the state exam, which is not that difficult, I remember very clearly they said which of the following means the same or similar. Okay. One of the choice is construction and interim, which means the same. Okay, construction loan is for interim finance. And however, the other choice, something like construction and term loan, or construction loan and balloon payment, or balloon payment with fully interest only, something like those combinations, they are not similar or related. Okay. Okay, next, on page 35, we have buy down. In the state exam, those words like buy down, open end, or term loan, straight loan, or the next one, the wraparound, those 5 was most difficult to remember in the state exam. Okay. So you have to pay attention to it, and you make a note. So in the state exam, you were easy to remind you what is buy down. Okay. Normally, I would recommend like buy down. You have to understand what really buy down is. Buy down, by the word itself, you pay something, you buy it down. Okay. What does it mean in real life for your mortgage? That was like a discount rate, discount point. You pay discount point to buy down your rate. So buy down is not really a type of loan. I would say it's a method to reduce your rate. You can negotiate with the bank, the lender, or the lender would provide those options for you to get you a better rate. They call buy down. It's not really you go to the bank, say, I want to get a buy down loan. There's no such a loan for your mortgage. It's only a method to reduce your rate. However, buy down, you're going to pay for it. How do you pay for it? You pay by discount point. Okay, so I think it's a good idea. You remember buy down and discount point. You put it together. They are same thing. Just it's the same thing on chapter 2, chapter 5. When we talk about contract, the novation, nobody can remember what novation is. Okay. For me, it took me a couple of years to remember what is novation. However, for you to pass the state exam, those terms like novation, I always ask you guys, you're gonna remember novation with something else. Like a novation, you remember novation and the counter offer. A counter offer is the novation. Okay. Novation is counter offer. Okay. Counter offer means it voids the original offer. Okay. You tear down the original offer. Now you give them a new offer. So you tear down something, you give them a replacement contract. This terminology is called novation. Next, the purchase money mortgage. Purchase money mortgage, sometimes in real life they also call like an owner will finance. So, however, for the state exam, it means something like the buyer puts some down payment and takes the existing loan from the seller. So, however, it happened most likely the buyer do not have that much of the cash. So the last part, the seller also finance the balance amount. So that's called purchase money mortgage. Number 3, the wraparound loan. Wraparound. It's just like a detour. Go over to the loan. How do you go over? Because the lender did not ask you to pay off the first loan. In general, we talk about the due on sale. When you you sell your property, the property is sold, you have to pay off the existing loan to the lender before the property is sold. However, the wraparound loan means, okay, they allowed you to get a second loan without paying off the first loan. Okay, that's an optional. You can do that. You go over the first loan. That's called wraparound. Okay, number 4, sell and lease back. By the word, they already tell you what it is. Okay, you sell your property, no matter in general, it's commercial property, and it can be residential as well. Something like right here we talk about like a builder. Okay, builder will sell and lease, give you a term of leasing your property for 2 years. They continue working as a model home. Okay. That's called sell and lease back. In commercial or industrial, why do they want to do that? Because for a business person, they don't like to put their capital in the real property because they need capital to doing a bigger and bigger business. So whenever they need the capital, if you own a factory, if you own a commercial complex, most likely you want to sell the property. So you sell out for $10 million, then you have that capital. Then you rent this commercial complex. You rent from the buyer, the factory. You rent it, the factory, and then you continue on your business. Still, you have $10 million capital. And also, there's a benefit in terms of if you the rental. However, rent you pay, or it can be a tax benefit. Okay, other than that, you have to remember the lessor and the lessee. Okay, and the buyer will become lessor, and the original owner will become lessee. The original owner sold out the property and rented it from you, so they become lessee. So the buyer, you rent out the factory to the original owner. So the buyer became the lessor. Okay, so for the state exam, you have to make it very clear what is the lessor, what is the lessee, who become lessee, who became lessor. Okay, that's on page 35. We call sell and lease back. Next, home equity loan. Equity, again, we say equity equals your property value minus your debts. Your debts normally is your mortgage. Okay, for our state exam, it's very straightforward, very simple. That's called equity. So in general, the equity loan is only they finance for you to purchase expensive item and or like doing a remodel, or you want to pay off your car loan, or you want to pay off your credit card debt. And or the medical bill, or you have kids, they want to go to the college. That's expensive tuition you're going to pay, or you want to do some home improvement or remodel. Okay, that's general, called equity loan. And in real life, equity loan, of course, you need to have good amount of the equity on your property. So the bank will give you equity loan. And one thing you need to remember is that equity loan, in general, banks do not allow you to use in this money to put as a down payment to purchase another house. Okay. Because the equity loan, that's not the purpose for the bank to give you those money. Okay, buy down. Again, we say you should remember the buy down is equal to discount point. So that's a quick hint. The buy down is the buyer, you prepay some of the buyer's interest by discount point. Why do you do that? In order to subsidize his or her payments, to reduce your payment in the near future. That's called buy down. Okay, page 35, we're going to continue on fees. Okay, the first one, the borrower always pay for the we call loan origination fee and the discount point. Okay, again, discount point. We just mentioned about it is represented by discount point. So one discount point is equal to 1% of the loan.
And the loan origination fee is something like the mortgage application fee. And normally it's also equal to 1% of the loan amount. And okay, there's another term they call usury. You have to remember that. It might happen in the state exam. In general, the usury means the state law. The state law say you cannot charge more than 24% of the interest rate. However, it does not apply to the major bank. For example, your credit card, they may charge over 24%. They are not violate the law of the usury. However, if you loan or some personal lender, you loan the money to whoever, you charge more than 24%, then you are against the state law they call usury. Okay, next, just let you know, if you have a 1,000K loan, 100,000, and if they say they charge you 3 discount points, that means they would take out the 3% before they pay you the full amount of the loan. So you actually only get like 97,000, what you actually get. Okay, next, loan to value, LTV. The loan to value in short is how many percent the lender they loaned you the money. The percent of your, of course, it's based on the appraisal. The percent of your property value, which most likely is appraisal value, or your purchase price. It can be your purchase price, because bank always take whichever is less. They are not likely to give you the too much. They prefer to give you less to protect themselves. Okay, other than that, you have to understand what does this LTV ratio, the percentage means. The higher, the lower. Okay, if they give you a lower LTV loan, the ratio, say they loan you 60% versus 80%. The 60% loan, then you need to pay higher down payment, probably like a 40% down payment. What does that mean? That lower lender's risk. So lender feel they are safer because the more money you put it down, the less likely you will default on the future payment because you already put a lot of money. So on the other hand, like FHA or some of the other type of non-conforming loan, if they give you 90%, even like 95, 97% for FHA, so you only put a little 3% of the money. So that would increase the lender's risk. Okay, that's the ratio means to the lender or to your down payment. Okay, next we're going to talk about the PMI. That's called private mortgage insurance. Actually, there's another similar insurance that's for FHA. They call MIP, mortgage insurance premium. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, private means it's not related to government, so it's not related to FHA. So why do you purchase this insurance? Because you have a non-conforming loan. The lender give you higher percentage of LTV. In general, is more than 80%. They loaned you more than 80%. So that increased the lender's risk. Lender was at high risk. So they ask you to purchase insurance to protect the lender. They call private mortgage insurance. Okay, other than that, the second point is in the state exam question would be something like, when can your PMI automatically terminated? If your equity build up more than 22%. However, you need to also remember sometimes they are not asking about this 22%. Sometimes it's 20%. So what does 20% mean? That means you are qualified to request the bank to terminate the PMI insurance. Okay. 22% is automatically terminated. So your equity build up more than 20%, you are eligible to request the bank to terminate your PMI insurance. Okay, so you have to remember the difference of 22% and 20%. Okay, next on page 35, we have we're going to talk about the federal law regarding about the mortgage we call True in Lending Act. There's a short we call TILA, T-I-L-A, so TILA. And also, actually on the TILA, there's a regulation X, Y, Z, and W, I believe. There's a regulation W, X, and Y, and Z. However, for our real estate salesperson related, we only need to understand regulation Z. Okay, that's created by Federal Trade Commission, FTC. So any of the real estate mortgage related to residential, of course, in general, it's 1 to 4 units. And the business or commercial is less than 25,000. You have to follow the FTC about the TILA, or they call Regulation Z. Okay, of course, in the state exam, they always ask what is the application, what covers. Does it include in residential? Does it include in commercial, etc.? Okay. If they say except, of course, you're going to choose the loan greater than 25,000 for business or commercial cultural stuff. Okay, page 35. And other than that, the TILA also has a regulation they protect the consumer, the borrower. So you have 3 days of rescission. So that means once your loan approved, you get 3 days to calm down, to think about it. And if you don't want it, it's not really what you wanted, so you can rescind, so you can cancel it. You can legally, without penalty. That's called rescission. Okay. Now, the third bullet point is also fairly important because Regulation Z provides a strict regulation on real estate advertisement. What does that mean? That means right here, on your advertisement, you have to disclose like how much application fee, or we call origination fee or discount point. You have to tell the consumer. In other words, you can't just say, okay, our company, okay, we are XYZ lender. We provide the best interest rate for 3%. Okay, if your advertisement was something like this, you mention about some particular rate, and you did not tell your customer, on top of this 3%, we're going to charge you a discount point and the loan origination fee. If you did not explicitly indicate how many points, how much loan origination fee, or 1% you're going to charge, then you violate the TILA Regulation Z. Then the advertisement is illegal. Okay, for real estate license, that's probably everything you need to know. Okay. So the discount point plus loan origination fee and the interest rate that called APR. Okay, APR stands for annual percentage rate. However, if you take the MLO, the mortgage license, then they will ask him more about they call trigger term. Trigger term means something I mentioned earlier. If you mention about I give you the best rate of 3%, then if you did not disclose this fee, then you are violating the Regulation Z. Okay, the second one we call ECHO, Equal Credit Opportunity Act. So ECHO is equal opportunity. This is for the loan application. You cannot discriminate race, color, religion, national origin, sex, age. There's only two other stuff you need to remember is they call marital status and dependence on public assistance. So in other words, if somebody has the disability, okay, they have money from the government, or even like a single mother or child support, you can that count as their proper income. So you are not supposed to against those persons. Okay, that's what's protected by ECHO, equal credit opportunity. Okay, TILA, you need to remember, it covers commercial under 25,000. Of course, it also covers residential 1 to 4 unit of residential. The residential general means like a single family house, condominium, and okay, by the way, just a quick reminder. Sometimes, in order to be smoothly closing the deal, a lot of time we will help the customer to prepare some of the document in order to get the loan approved or something. However, you're gonna be very careful not violate the law, because the federal law is very strict. The mortgage fraud, if you're doing something fraud illegally, you could be punished up to 30 years in the prison. Okay, the next one we call Uniform Commercial Code, UCC. First, you gotta remember that UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, is govern the document. Okay, they regulate those documents. And the UCC is different from the TILA. TILA is government for the residential mortgage loan. The UCC is different. It's not for real property. Most likely is for personal property. So it governs the document. Other word is they call financing statement when you're using the personal property as the security. That's belong to the UCC. Does not belong to the TILA. Okay, so let's see the difference, the real property and the personal property. This part is, sometimes it can be fairly difficult. Okay, the reason why is, in real property, we need to give the lender a promise note. A promise note serve as financing instrument, which means I write down something that I promise to pay you back, repay the loan. That's called promissory note. And just one piece of paper is not enough. Okay, the lender, they want something more security, called security instrument. Then the borrower, you have to give another called trustee or deed of trust as the security. So that called security instrument. Okay, that's a real property mortgage loan by those two security documents. However, for personal property, it's kind of different. You need to give first a finance instrument they call security agreement. You need to write down a security agreement to be served as the financing instrument. And then you need to give a security instrument they call financing agreement. So that's very confusing. Okay. However, you have to remember. And it happened also on last year's state exam. They call UCC-1. They ask you, what is UCC-1? Okay, UCC-1 is a financing agreement. It's a document. It served as a security instrument. Okay, that was kind of most difficult type of state exam. Okay, the most difficult first is confusing. Okay, financing agreement. This is called financing instrument. However, the financing agreement is not financing instrument. It is security instrument. They call UCC-1. That's the document. Okay, next we have computer loan origination, in short, CLO. This is easier. Just something you need to remember that you pay only like half point, means half percent. Okay. And then the lender or the CLO, they have to inform you that there's other lender available outside, not only from their computer loan origination. Okay, that's a simple one, even it comes up in the state exam. Okay, next, underwriting and impound account. That's fairly important too. Underwriting, it happens in insurance company, title insurance company, mortgage company. They all has underwriting department, or the person who work in that department they call underwriter. Okay, for the mortgage, for the loan, most likely you work with the lender, or people has the license we call MLO, Mortgage Loan Originator. And the MLO works with, there's a kind of like an assistant at their office they call processor. Processor check all the document. Okay. Then they present all the application or the document required to their headquarters. That's the underwriting department. So underwriting department will go over all the documents, see if you are qualified, if there's something missing, or you are disqualified. Then the underwriter will approve the loan if everything looks fine to them, qualified. Okay, that's called underwriting. So underwriting generally they will consider so-called collateral. Collateral means you pledge your real property as a security. And then they will also check your credit reputation, such as your credit score, etc. And the last word they call capacity. Capacity generally refer to pretty much everything. Okay. Capacity would be like if you are capable to pay off the debt, which will include like how much you make, your income, and how much cash you have in your bank,
or other type of the assets you have. You have other building, you have other business, and of course they're gonna consider your debt. How many credit card you have, how many car loan you have, how many or other property, the mortgage on other property, everything. So that's called capacity. Okay, it's important for your MLO license, but for real estate license, it's good to know. Okay, it's possible they will ask you. Okay, last one, impound account. That was fairly important. It happened most of the time in the state exam. Impound account is also called escrow account. Okay, impound account. It is important because when we talk about foreclosure, strictly speaking of the foreclosure, it's happened in the court, okay, called judicial foreclosure. Once court order sell, it only pay off the first lien, so the rest of them being wiped out. So in other words, you are not gonna get anything other than the first lien owner. You get paid. So that scares the lender. So that's why the lender asks you to put down some money in the impound account. They created an escrow account. They estimate the next year the tax and insurance, most likely tax including insurance. So you put those money in the impound account, and the lender, the bank, they will make sure they pay the tax for you. Yeah. It's not because they provide good service. Okay. It's because they want to protect themselves. Okay, let's see. Okay, UCC-1. Okay, it's a short notice for borrower to sign on security agreement. And in other words, it also serves as a lien applied to personal property by UCC-1. Okay, last, let's give you this graphic to demonstrate how mortgage loan works. Okay. A consumer, a customer, a borrower, they file a loan application through the MLO. So the MLO called Mortgage Loan Originator. And most likely in their office, there's another guy called processor. The processor do not need to be a licensed MLO. They only processing those documents. And then they help MLO to prepare all those files to the headquarters. Most likely happen in the headquarters, the underwriting department. So the underwriter will go over and qualify the loan, approve the loan to the MLO. So the consumer gets the loan. Okay, that's how those are three person involved in the loan application or in the loan department.
Okay, that's all for chapter 6. Let's take a 10 minutes break. Then we come back for chapter 7 for the property management.
是，我看你现在开的好多的培训，贷款的，还有那个保险的。
保险正在筹划，没有正式开了，贷款已经开了。保险目前
理财吗？还是房屋？还是
目前就是那个 PNC 跟
PNC 是什么？
财务跟 property 跟 casualty 就是意外险啊、财务啊，就简称一般的保险就是分两类，人寿啊，医疗跟人寿，
医疗人寿
，Life Health 跟 PNC 分这两部分。
PNC 就是财产的，
车子啊、财产意外的保。
你这两个都会开啊？
那可能不是我教的。
如果人寿的话，那它也包括理财，对不对？像那些
理财是另外里面的，那另外有复杂 7
那就是人寿
那个
寿险
对，一般的是保险
财产。
理财那部分又 cover 很多了，一般的理财有投资，然后再上去 Series 7是股票。
对，
股票操作的，那是 Series 那部分更复杂，而且那部分很好。
对，太专业。老师，那比如说我们如果做那个房地产agent，如果我们跑出来你说那个财产保险，那他的房子如果要保险，可以找同一个人吗？比如说我又是他的财产 agent。我同时也有那个房地产的保险的那个 license， 那我可以把我卖的房，或者是
一般不会找你保，一般都是找自己车保险，保险会便宜，你算下来他一年能便宜至少4%。
就是它也不违法的，对不对？
不违法，
就是我们可以这个不太冲突哈。
而且加州如果你要做房地产的贷款。要求房地产贷款的执照不是 National MLO 贷款
房地产贷款，
所以他要求要有贷款，要有房地产执照也要。我们加州
这个 First American Title Group 这是没听过，是因为我收到那个。收到这个他让我去考，因为那3张证书我说这个
你去什么？考 OK 我知道了。
后来是
那个 Bree 最近这几个月开始以前他们是你要等他寄信。他们现在是用 email，
对，他说我现在是通过了，
对，所以你就可以直接登录他的那个 e-license， 可以直接去选。
我没有，我需要这个那个 register 吗？是注册吗？没有账户名可以吗？他也没有给我个 code， 什么都
没有吗？
没有。
收到，我还没有看过，但是他们也跟我说，这2个月他们都是先收到这个，
是不是这个 ID？
是的，但是
但是我无所谓什么时候去考，现在我已经花了，我已经够资格。
如果你不急，应该
我是没有时间看，哎，我都忙死了。我买房子买的蓝那儿，
是吧？
然后，但是我发现，我这上面的跟我这个去买的一点也用不上。
这个比较理论一点。
那
考试，
那我们就简单来说，我要去考试的话，我把这个一本都吃下去，然后我再去做2面题。
你把题目要做熟，
差不多就 OK 了。第一本吃不吃很重要吗？
重要啊，
很重要。还是只吃题就 OK 了？社会题差不多变形，那也问的东西。
其实他们那本的题考试没有那么难，没有他们那一本。但是你以这个做标准，如果你做到了，但我说的这个其实上是不是靠10倍？对，如果理解，然后训练一下阅读的时间掌握，应该就。
老师，你有没有自己的队伍给人装修做后院？
所以现在立马达的
没有。
我以为您在这行这么多年，他们一般就是什么大的 broker 他自己都有队伍的嘛，我给他们做对。
不一定。
我认了一个有，但是说他只给在他那里买房的做，因为他是
不一定有啊，有一些 broker 连 private management 都做，因为那个很麻烦。
新房嘛，你不用那么麻烦，直接去找 builder 签发票就好了。然后我说我在考这个 agent 执照，我说你是要跟我签，还是给我便宜点，还是我找 agent 来？然后他说我们就是都给2.5。对，他就给我讲了。
那个是算工地盖房。
对，builder 直接。我说你要不然我现在是没考下来，但是我现在够资格去考。然后，对，然后我说你要不要我再找一个有license的 agent 来？我说你都要拿这些钱。但是他给的，他这个2.5%，他是还一部分是给我减到房价，然后还一部分给我。一半吧，一半给我放到design center，让我去 upgrade 东西，就算那个 stock credit 你要用什么样的地板呢？这样不好哎，我加下去之后房价还是上来，我要多付税的。懂我的意思？是，比如说你这个房70万，然后呢，他给我1万块的 stock credit， 我去design center选什么，这房就变71万，71万。
其实他们那个数字游戏，你找 agent 去，其实以后我会培养学生，就专门做新房子的，因为新房子的 agent 很简单，然后比如说你把我的名字报给他，他虽然说那个了，其实一样的，你还是拿到了。
我看现在这个开新房卖的都好，你又不麻烦，又没有什么穷这些问题呀。然后新房一般格局都比较好。
在哪里买？哪个城市？
可维纳。
没错，现在很多。
而且像兰那儿，它好在一点就是还算年轻人，就是它方便，它里面什么都包了。
什么都包。
什么微波炉、口香，然后洗碗机啊、电冰箱、洗衣机，什么都装了。你只要买家具进去就好了，不然没有时间。房没怎么忙，新房到那边写个名就走了，然后对他 builder 会给你什么提供包。像你刚刚问保险 ，builder 就一直 push 我，让我跟他那个合作的那个买房保险 home insurance， 然后他给我报价是600多一年，然后我找我自己小车的保险 Stay Farm 便宜100块，然后我的车的保险2部车每个月，这就差很多。你每个月便宜30块，
因为你又加了房子保险，所以。老师，将来我们考出执照，因为这个房子不能天天卖，觉得一边卖房子一边同时做的这样，
可以啊，
可以啊，让客户也能在一起，而且像保险它的收入就是比较小，然后比较频繁，能几个，尤其是对一开始，
对啊对啊。
老师是不是考保险的执照要比这个相对容易很多？有那个题，
我就是说
复习个几个周是不是就可以了？
保险啊，保险当然比房地产，
差不多。你给的题库和考试基本上从这个题库就讲，你把那个题库吃够了就行。我认识一些人，他们什么时候开保险课？我也想，因为
我看那个 Evan 有没有空啊？
我有
可能下个月吧，下个月
如果我做保险，我马上就能做起来，这个就会有客户。然后如果将来我就不用担心，比如说卖房子前1、2年、2、3年比较吃力，因为我现在手头都没有客户，先做着这个，然后做着。将来的话，也可以让老公或者是我们2个人，一个人主要做房子，一个人做保险。老师，你刚才说的那个问题，就是卖房子的 agent， 加州的法律规定，他一定必须得有贷款的 license 吗？
不是，如果你要做房屋的贷款，
做房屋的贷款，
必须要有房地产执照跟贷款。
那个得有2个执照哈。老师，是不是做房屋的贷款和房地产，是不是不如就是说做房地产再做那个其他的保险这样容易些？保险和房屋，因为我看到他们有的夫妇啊，一个人做贷款，就是2个人其实是搭档，又是2口子。他们说，哎，我们给你贷款啊，给你买房子，我们俩都能做，他做贷款，我做那个，有好多夫妇的，我做。我在想，如果将来做卖房子的，做保险呀，还是做贷款？贷款的执照难考吗？
贷款执照啊，
要比保险执照难考啊？
差不多。
差不多。
贷款里面考的很多，也是我们讲的这些东西。
也是这些东西。
有一大部分。
那即使我们有贷款的执照，是不是将来客户如果要买房子贷，我们还是要把它介绍给？做不了。
当然，你一样，跟做房地产一样，你的执照是跟着某一个 lender 或银行。
跟着某一个银行。
或 lender。
相当于我是这个银行的一个 agent。
或者是这些专门做贷款的 lender 啊。
你什么时候开？不一定。
还没确定。
最近几个月，还可以下半年。
应该这1、2个月吧。
我也想，如果那个执照好考，
你就跟 Jenny 登记嘛，到时候他
好
确定的时候，他就会通知你。
对，我如果做保险，能挺快的就上手做了。
Okay. All right. Let's coming back to chapter 7.
Okay, Chapter 7, we will cover on first section the market value and the calculation. We need to understand and how to determine the value. And 7.2, we talk about the lease agreement. And then we talk about the property manager's responsibility. And section 7.4, we have the real estate appraisal. And then we on the last part, we will talk about the characteristic of the value and the 3 approaches for the appraisal. And by the way, before we start this section, we just talked to Eva, the other students, regarding about the mortgage license. If you were interested in the future for mortgage license, actually, it covers pretty much like 40 to 50% about those material we have been talked about on Chapter 6, and of course the Chapter 7 on the appraisal part. So in general, our real estate material probably there's 40% it will be involved in the mortgage license too. Okay, now let's take a look at 7.1, the market value and the calculation. The first, market value. Whenever we talk about the value, that means it is a professional person using standard format or the method. They provide you the most probable price. It's not the market price or the sales price. Okay. Market price generally means it happened in the market, the actual sales price. And in other words, it can be a subjective price. Okay. Sale price can be subjective. Market value is objective. There's no bias, no preference. It's a professional way to estimate the value. Okay, the cost is not equal to market value or the market price. That's for sure. The cost is something, how much you purchase, or how much, later we talk about, for the insurance purposes, called replacement cost. Okay, next, competitive market analysis. In short, we call CMA. CMA is important for our real estate license. CMA is a responsibility from the broker, or so-called an agent. The broker has to provide your customer the fiduciary duties, including the care. Of course, the most important is the CMA, the price. You have to let your customer understand what is a good price to purchase, or what is the good price to put on the listing for sale. Okay. That's the responsibility, because fiduciary duty of the brokers, the agents. Okay, so how do we generate CMA? In old-fashioned way, it's pretty nasty. You're gonna collect all those information and make comparison, whatever. But nowadays in MLS, it's similar to like a Google map. You point or you provide an address or area, and you specify the range, like within the 1 mile, and during the past 2 or 3 months, and then you input like I'm looking for 2,000 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2 baths, the general information. Then you run it, then it will filter out the sales price that happened within a couple of months. So then you can select according to your customer preference or requirement. Because, for example, some of the people, they don't want to spend extra money on the pool, swimming pool stuff. Okay, then you eliminate those property with a swimming pool. Okay, then the price is called CMA. So the CMA is a range of the price. For example, you find out it is 135,000 to 140,000. Okay, that's called CMA. Next, we need to understand appraisal value. Appraisal value is it can be the CMA and the market value. Okay. Market value would include the CMA and the appraisal value. They are both so-called market value. However, the CMA is not a formal appraisal. Okay. The formal appraisal value or the appraisal, it has to be done by the appraiser. So we, as either the agent or the brokers, we only provide a good, reliable value called CMA, but it's not the formal appraisal. Okay, next, although in California, the state exam, there's no more any type of the mathematics or calculation. Okay, so when you practice the Mr. Tom Fieldy's the exam book, the white books, you can skip the last part of the mathematics, because in California there's no more calculation in the state exam. However, the general idea we still need to understand. Okay. The first, you need to understand from the listing agent and the buyer's agent, selling agent. Okay. And the commission generally is paid by the seller. Let's say 6% traditionally. Then the 6% is split between the listing agent and the selling agent. Okay. In other words, they probably each get roughly 3%. Okay, that's the picture of the commission split. Then within the brokerage, you sign. For example, if you were belong to the selling agent, all the agents sign the contract with the broker. they call associate broker. Okay. And the commission split between you and the broker, it varies quite a bit. There's several different ways. They call 100% commission, which means the 3%. You get all 3%. And then there has 90%, there's 60%, 50%, etc. Okay. That all depends on the company or the contract you sign with the broker. There's no law to dictate how many percent of the commission. So there's another type in the state exam. If you go to other state, okay, for example, like it used to be the PSI state exam for Nevada and New York. Now Nevada is Pearson, no more PSI. They will give you pretty nasty calculation. Okay, first you have to understand you broker the share of the commission. Then you have to understand either it's 100% from your associate broker. Then they will tell you, okay, if you sold the first 6 houses, the broker will give you 40% of the commission. Then between the number 6 to number 10 house, then they will give you only 30% of the. Then after the 10 house, then they give you 20% of the commission, something like that. So they make you to calculate. Say you sold 12 or 15 house. So how much commission you get? So okay. Other than that, the simple one is find a commission percentage. I think everybody can do that. Other than if you can't do it by directly, they always give you a calculator. Okay. So in the state exam, don't bring anything. You don't need to bring anything. You don't need to bring calculator. You don't need to bring pen or paper. They are not allowed you to bring anything. You can still use in their calculator. Okay. If you get 3K out of 100K, that means you get 3%. That's easy. And if they tell you that you have 3% commission from your broker, then if the property sold for 100,000, then you get 3,000. That's very straightforward. And the next two is not as easy. Okay. First, if you know you get 3,000 commission and you know your broker give you 3%, then you want to figure out what is the sales price, and using 3,000 divided by 3%, that will give you the 100,000. And similarly, if you know the seller get 97,000, okay, and you know the seller give out 3% of the commission, which means the 97,000 represent 97% of the total price. So you use 97,000 divided by 97%. So then you get 100,000 for the total sales price. Okay, last part, I think is kind of important. Although we don't have any more calculation in the state exam. For most of the exam, even in the general contractor, they're always asking about those type of calculation to help you understand how to determine your listing price. Or in general contractor, you need to quote for the entire cost. Make quotation. Okay, let's say if a property was sold for 100,000, and you know you have you're gonna make 3% of the commission. It will happen in our real estate listing agent or the most likely listing agent, because a lot of time the seller will tell you that, okay, I has to have 100,000 after the property was sold. So then you're gonna decide what would be a good listing price, or the bottom line, how much you're gonna sell for the property, in order to cover also your 3% of the commission. So based on our instinct, we will say, okay, 100,000 plus 3,000. Let's list him for 103,000, right? So, however, in the state exam, that's false. It's not right. So, seller pay you 3%. That means seller will get 97%. Right? So seller wants 100%. I'm sorry, 100,000. So this 100,000 represent is 97%. So what would be your listing price? You gotta divide it. Okay. 100,000 means 90%. So you divide it. So you better list it as 103,000.09. So that's a good price for your listing price. Otherwise, you won't get exactly 3% of the commission. Okay, let's see the quick hint. I just make some quick hint for the court. In the court, the court sales, it can be considered as market price. Okay. In the court case, a willing buyer and a willing seller, they will make a market value. Okay, that's when court decided. Court sale is a market price. Okay, the cost is not equal to market value or market price, because cost is what you pay. For example, 30 years ago, to purchase this price. That's the cost. Okay, CMA. Actually, it's a broker. It's a broker's responsibility to provide. Okay, appraisal value. Appraisal in the state exam, they always ask. The appraisal value is only good for the one day, the specific day only. All right, let's continue on 7.2, the lease agreement. Okay, in general, the lease agreement can be written, oral, or implied. And then you have to understand a lease will involve a lessor. Lessor is normally also called landlord. The lessee is called the tenant. And then there's a sublessor and sublessee. Okay, lease agreement in general, it covers like a legal capacity is same as most of other real estate sales contract. Okay, and legal object, that's for sure. And there's always the requirement for offer and acceptance. And then there's a dollar sign we call consideration value or the dollar sign. Okay, then let's talk about type of leasehold. The first one we call tenancy for years. Second one is stay from period to period. For years, by the word, it means sounds like many years. However, in the state exam, it can be a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Okay. In the state exam, if they tell you there's a lease for 5 months or 5 weeks, then they ask you what kind of lease is it? It's tenancy for years. So don't let the 4 years mislead you to a different area. So tenancy for years, the most important thing is this word. Definite period of time. Or very clearly end date. So the tenancy for a year, the lease will automatically terminate it at the end of the term. So, for example, after 5 weeks, 5 months. So, in other words, there's no notice required to terminate the lease because it has a definite end date. Okay, for some reason, California state exam it's more like English exam. Okay, they ask you this word. It happens a couple of questions in the exclusive listing, in the tenancy for years. Always asking about this word, a definite end date, a definite time. Okay, next, stay from period to period. It's in real life, we normally say month to month. Okay. However, period to period can be month to month, it can be quarter to quarter, it can be year to year, or weeks to weeks. So the period to period, lease by indefinite time. There's no expiration date. In other words, it's called open-end date. Those two are very different. Tenancy for years, it has a definite end date. Period to period, there's no expiration date. There's no definite end date. So the end date is open. So since the end date is open, so if the landlord want to terminate the lease or the tenant want to terminate, they must give a proper notice. In general, it's a 1 month notice. So that's called period to period. Or in the state exam, if the exam question says after your first year lease expired, you still pay the rent for each month, and the landlord, they take it. They did not ask you to leave. So what's the situation? Okay, that's your lease become period to period because the landlord takes your rent. Okay, you pay periodically. That's called period to period. Okay, number 3, tenancy at will and tenancy at sufferance. Tenancy at will is it can be in California we say moment notice. A moment notice means whenever I ask you to leave, then you have to go. That's called tenancy at will. That means there's no definite term or end date. In other words, it's unspecified term. However, in California, the moment notice is not a legal lease agreement. Okay. It normally happens, for example, the government want to build up a highway, so by eminent domain, they're going to take your property to build a highway. However, you are not sure how long it's going to take. It could be next year, it could be next month. So you cannot give the lessee a definite term of how long they can live there. So that's called tenancy at will. Okay, however, the death of either lessor or lessee will terminate a tenancy at will. Okay, the lease termination, you have to remember. In general, the lease agreement, it won't be terminated by the death of the tenant. Other than the tenancy at will. The tenancy at will and the life estate will terminate the lease. Okay, number 4, the tenancy as sufferance. Tenancy as sufferance. Sufferance means I have something bother me. So something bother me for my lease agreement. Okay? For example, my lease agreement will be expired at end of this month, or it's already ended, and I don't know what to do. I don't really want to sign another year because I just graduated from the university and I'm applying a job in New York and in San Jose, and most likely next month I will move to San Jose. So if I sign another year, then I gotta be in big trouble. So I'm suffering. So that's called tenancy as suffering. So that means the tenant previous lawful possession, I have a lease and because I'm continuing possession without landlord's consent after expiration of the leasehold, the lease, that called tenants and sufferance. Okay, in general, the lease agreement, it has to be in writing if it was longer than 1 year. The leasehold or the lease agreement, longer than 1 year, it has to be in writing. It comes from Chapter 5, the contract. We talk about the statute of fraud. And the lease contract, the lessor and lessee must sign the contract. Okay, in general, the notary is not really required unless under some particular situation you want to do a recording, then you have to do notary public. Okay, tenants for years. It can be, the duration or the termination date, it was set in advance. So it can be days, months, or years. Okay, the last part, the tenancy and sufferance, is important. Later we'll talk about unlawful detainer. Okay, let's continue to talk about some other types of the lease. The first one, residential lease, agricultural, gross lease, and net lease. For residential lease, the most important is the lessor, the landlord. The landlord is required to maintain the dwelling unit in a habitable condition. Okay, that was important. Is related to our the quiet enjoyment covenant. The quiet enjoyment covenant, there's two meanings. There's two implied meaning. First, the landlord promised do not disturb the tenant. The second implied covenant is the landlord promised to maintain the dwelling in a good situation, habitable condition. In general, in the state exam, we will talk about something like the hot water for shower, taking shower, the air condition or the heater in the in the cold area, the heater, and or like a roof leaking. Okay, then it's not a habitable condition. Agriculture or the land lease is not that important because our license, the state exam, is 90%, 99% is focused on residential 1 to 4 unit dwelling. For land, for agriculture or for land lease, let's say if you rent a farm, there's a barn or there's a structure there, it was destroyed by a tornado, by earthquake, but it doesn't really affect the purpose of the farm. You can still doing your farming. So you are liable to pay the rent. Okay, then gross lease and net lease is very important, no matter it's in the state exam or real life. Net lease generally is more for the commercial. For retail, for commercial lease, okay, tenant will pay not only just rent, you will pay other assessment or other HOA fees. They call net lease, or they call triple lease. The insurance assessment and like HOA fees or maintenance. They call triple net. And gross lease is more like a residential. Landlord has to pay most of the tax, insurance, and the landlord responsible to the repairing and some of the operations. So in general, such as apartment lease. Okay, next we have percentage lease. Percentage lease most likely is like in the shopping center or in the casino. If you want to rent retail space from the casino or in the shopping center or in the supermarket, you rent a small space, a booth, then most likely they will give you a percentage lease, which means they are not only charge you the monthly rent. It will be monthly rent plus a certain percent of your gross income. That's percentage lease. Variable lease, by the word itself, variable, just like a variable rate for the loan. It can be increased. Ground lease is not that important. Ground lease means you only rent the place, the ground, for certain purpose. So they are not, the landlord is not liable or did not promise to provide to building something on the land. So in other words, tenant agree they will build something for their business purpose. For example, maybe a machine shop or maybe a car wash, something like that. Okay, that's ground lease. Index lease, by the index, it means the rental will be vary according to something, for example, like a CPI, Consumer Price Index. Lease purchased. That's also related to agriculture. It's not that important. That means you lease the land from the farmer. It is similar to like a land contract. Here. Okay. Okay. Last, that's some quick hint. First, in California, we have so-called rent control.
particularly in LA area, we have LA County and Santa Monica. Those two counties has rent control. In general, rent control is more protect the tenant. And in New York, they also have rent control. They base on they call the maximum base or rent. And also in New York, they have like so-called rent stabilization. Okay, the rent control or the rent stabilization, it will be similar to San Francisco and San Jose recently. They want to pass in the new law to protect the tenant. So those homeowners right now, they will kind of get scared and they try to kick out the tenant before it's too late. Okay, so residential normally is what we call gross lease. However, it's not necessary. If you go to rent an office space or retail, then most likely they will tell you triple net. For example, they will tell you the rent itself is $3 average in like a city of Arcadia. Then they will tell you you're gonna pay something maybe like a 50 cents or 75 cents on top of the rent. And then, of course, you can negotiate with the the landlord, right? So you say, okay, let's do it. Okay, I will pay you this gross for $350 or $325, something like that. Okay, that's a gross lease versus net lease. Okay, in New York, that's a little bit different. New York, there's a law that you cannot limit it to the tenant named in the lease. Okay, there's another important called Tenant Improvements. A tenant for the business or for commercial rental agreement, there's a tenant improvement. Tenant improvement can be something like, for example, the new building, new shopping center in the Roseme and Las Tunas. There's a new shopping center on the Temple City site. Most of the new building, if they rent it out, it's most likely is unfinished. The landlord is not willing to do the remodel to finish the, sometimes including the wall or the floor or even the ceiling. So the tenant, you have to doing your own remodel. In that cases, most likely the landlord will say, okay, I give you 6 months or 5 months free rent. So that's called tenant improvement. Okay, triple net. Tenant will pay such as property tax, insurance, or maintenance fee. Or sometimes they call HOA, whatever. That's called triple net. Okay, ground lease normally it can be as long as up to 99 years. Okay, next on page 37, we have discharge of lease is important. The lease won't terminate it after somebody died, except those two you have to remember. The tenancy will we just talk about. Okay, the death of either party will terminate the tenancy will. And the life state, when the life tenant ends. So the ownership of the life state ends, the lease will be removed, or the tenant must move. So only those two you need to remember. Okay, and regarding about the security deposit, okay, first in California by law, the landlord has to give the tenant a notice of the return of the security deposit. Of course, it can be offset if there's a delinquent or the cleaning fee, those type of stuff, or some damage, you can deduct it from the security deposit. However, within 21 days, you have to return the balance amount to the tenant. Okay, and then for the sales contract, there's a sales clause. Sales clause would permit the new landlord to sign or terminate the existing lease when the property is sold. And the last one, we have sublease versus assignment. Okay, sublease and assignment. Okay, that's the last part we're going to talk about today. Both cases, you have to get approval, consent by the landlord. And both of the cases, it does not release your liability to pay the rent. In other words, if the sublessor, they do not pay the rent, the landlord can go after you instead of the sublessor or sublessee. I'm sorry, sublessee. And the difference of the sublease and assignment is assignment more happened in, for example, you own a restaurant. When you want to sell your restaurant, the buyer, most likely the buyer want to sign the lease directly with the landlord. However, a lot of the landlord, they don't want to sign a new lease with a new buyer. So that's something you need to understand when you sell the business. Unless the landlord agreed, then you can sign the assign the lease to the buyer. And remember, it does not automatically release your liability. However, within the assignment contract, you can specify that let the new buyer take over the lease, the liability. Then you remove from the liable for the rent. Okay, in general, we have 30-day notice for the month to month. In New York, the lease up more than 5 years, then
no notice needed. And also in New York, there's the tenant can surrender the lease. Okay, then the landlord can decide if they want to release the lease. And okay, in general, in New York, the landlord can deny the consent to your assignment or sublease of the residential. Okay, assignment, most important, you need to understand who is the assignor. Assignor is the original lease owner. Okay? The assignee is the new person to take over the primary responsibility to pay rent. However, remember, the original lessor, the assignor, did not remove from the liability. The assignor has secondary liability. So in other words, if the assignee failed to pay the rent, then the landlord can go after you because you were named as secondary liability. Unless in the contract of the assignment specifically remove you as secondary liability. Okay, the last, the sublease. Okay, both of the sublessor and sublessee are liable to pay the rent. So the sublessee is holding back the portion of lease interest. And sublessor is liable to the landlord. Okay, that's a major difference from assignment and sublease. Okay, we're running out of time, so we're gonna stop here. By the way, I think that next Saturday is a long weekend for national days. So so we don't have class on next Saturday. Okay. So is there any person has the question online? Okay, bye. Okay, if not, then I wish you have a wonderful weekend. Hey, 不谢不谢。
是啊。
hey.
你有没有跟你那个说？
还没。
他要不同意，那我交点钱我。